Hello, welcome to another edition of Bleeding Cool Chatter or BC Chatter, whatever we officially decide to call this. My name is Kaitlyn Booth. I am the head film writer here at Bleeding Cool and also a film critic. This week we're going to talk about, this time we're going to talk about some fun stuff, and I'm going to let my two other co-hosts introduce themselves as well.
Hi, my name is Ray Flook. I cover the television beat for Bleeding Cool.
I'm Bill Waters. I do both television and film and then special events as they come up.
So I figured we should probably just skip news just because there isn't that much that's happened in the last couple of days since we've done this. The latter half of the week tends to be a little slower, so I figured we'd pick a specific topic to talk about or a couple, and then we just kind of move on from there.
Do we want to talk about the Appa thing?
That's we want to talk about
the Riverdale accident.
I didn't know about this. What happened?
So, Ray, do you know about this one? You've been seeing that one?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Basically, a couple of days ago, Riverdale, they had a long shooting day, 16 hours long. At the end of the day, their star that plays Archie got in his car, was heading home, purportedly, either fell asleep at the wheel or dozed off and got into an accident. And so there was much things about the studio is going. It wasn't we've offered lots of things to people to make sure they don't drive too sleepy, but it's become much with a drama. Ray, what have you heard in the last day or so?
It's interesting that the one thing I've noticed is people I was surprised by the surprise people have when they hear, oh my God, they're working 16-hour days. Because I think there's still this mindset of, if they're on TV on a film, then everyone's the same level. Everyone gets like pampered, treated nicely, everything like that. Yeah. And it's like, I think people see something like this and they're realizing, the cast of Riverdale is not getting Will Smith's trailer. They're not getting Tom Hanks's caterer. They're still having to hump their butts to push and promote in 16, 18-hour days. I mean, David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson used to talk about it with the X-Files. Even when they were like on the cover of Rolling Stone, they were still pulling like huge hours.
Yeah, it's just insane the amount of, I mean, it's kind of like, with our jobs, everyone's like, oh, you guys have awesome jobs. And we do have awesome jobs, don't get me wrong, but it's work. I mean, it's work. I mean, we pretty much don't have days off, like we work from when we wake up to when we go to bed pretty much. And it's just, even your dream job, they say, you get a job you love, you never work a day in your life. It's true and it's not. I mean, you work still, but you enjoy it more. So it's like these kids might be, they have an awesome job and they probably love it, but they're still working and they work hard. Like, acting is not an easy thing.
No.
It's hard.
Yeah, especially when you're relatively new to the scene, you're a major player in a big CW show, and you're pushing for hitting deadlines. Now, whether they didn't offer him a car service, which I can't really imagine him being a star, but he may have also just been, no, guys, it's cool, and just had that sort of thing that happens to a lot of people that have just had a long day, pushed themselves too hard, and this is one of those, kind of a good reminder to not drive when exhausted just as much as intoxicated or anything else. But fortunately, it sounds like he's not injured too badly, but there's much with the finger pointing as to what's the problem, and the union is investigating, but it sounds like he's all right and he'll be back to it if he wasn't already today.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who used to work graveyards, I know all about almost falling asleep behind the wheel, and it's terrifying. And there are certain like little tricks that you can do, but when you're that tired, there's no getting around it. I mean, it's scary to almost doze off. It really is.
Yeah.
And
when you're doing the long haul of driving and you have those certain nights where it's like, okay, I don't quite remember how I got from one exit to the next. Yeah, that really is. There's no comfort factor to that.
I personally won't do, like, if I don't think I've driven by myself for longer than a couple of hours. Like, I won't. Somebody told me to drive to California to visit a friend. And I was like, no, I'll fly. I'd rather fly because I don't like driving at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's why you haven't visited us yet. Got it. I see how it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
let's shoot the next topic.
Ray said you wanted to do something related to your column, The Weekly Static.
Yeah, then actually a perfect segue, because the issue about what happened with KJ Apa was actually one of the things we talked about in the Weekly Static. Weekly Static, just for those of you who don't know, Every week what I do is I usually take like 10 random topics from the TV news coverage and just kind of give a little opinion and overview, but most importantly, kind of give some exposure to other Bleeding Cool writers to let you know that the kind of news coverage that's going on out there in television. Having said that, that segues nicely because I have the honor of having one of those people here right on this podcast right now. Kaitlyn.
Yes.
Would I talk to you about the post you wrote regarding Dan Harmon from Rick and Morty and the fact that he, God bless him, decided to take on internet trolls head on. Tell me a little bit what you think about that.
That was, I mean, even our replicant boss sent me a message and he was like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody come down that hard. Like, and there is probably a considerable amount of the Rick and Morty fan base who is going to take severe offense to that. And the fact that he was like, I don't give a crap. Like, you guys are wrong. I'm not going to, like, tiptoe around the fact that you're wrong. And I haven't read the comment section of what that article ended up being like. I'm going to assume it probably wasn't very good because I went in on them too because I was like, I'm so sick of this crap. It's just, it needs to stop. I was on a panel today. I'm currently at Salt Lake Comic-Con doing panels. I was on a panel today called The Dangerous Women of Comic-Con, and we had an author on there, a Japanese-American author, and she talked about some of the stuff that she has had sent to her and said to her, and the fact that if she got on a mic and said Mary Poppins, she had a stalker who was trying to find her at the con, and that meant she saw the stalker and we needed to call security. I mean, this crap needs to stop, you guys. You need to stop harassing people online. You need to stop doxing people. It needs to stop. It has to stop. We cannot move forward as a society until we stop this absolute bullshit, I'm sorry for language, where we act like this to each other online. It's not acceptable. It's just not. And I'm glad that Harmon used his considerable platform to call out not only his fan base, but the internet in general. Because, like, everything about Rick and Morty is so steeped in nerd culture that when he calls out his fans, he's calling out a good majority of the culture, of the nerds themselves. And it took guts to take that kind of stand. Yeah. At the same time, it's kind of sad that he had to in the first place.
Yeah, I know. But that's the big...
Yeah, it's like the fact that we're having this conversation at all just infuriates me. It really does. It's just, because to me, it boils down basically to this. How in 2017 can you say, to put it bluntly, you're a geek because of what you have in your pants? Yeah. Like, that's insane on so many, like, I don't care what your belief system is. Just think of that sentence. Where on any basic human level does that really make sense? In any way, shape, or form? It doesn't. It's not ridiculous. It's just, like I said, when I found that article, I immediately posted it in the TV chat, and I said, mine. This is me. Yeah, I'm writing this one. There is no argument for this one. It was just, if you haven't looked it up, like I said, I've written an article about it. It's also on Entertainment Weekly. It's a great takedown. And if you read that takedown and you're like, I think he might be talking about me, the reaction shouldn't be, oh my God, why is Dan Harmon saying this stuff about me? No, your reaction should be, wow, maybe I need to take a step back and think about how I present myself and act online, because the internet does not exist in a vacuum. It affects real people with their real lives. And it's just, like I said, it infuriates me. Can you do the super Cliff Note version as to what it was that triggered him and what was the essence of what he said? I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but the thing that triggered it was that 2 of his female writers were credited on the 2nd and 3rd episode of 3rd season, which is the Rick Manson the Stone episode and the Pickle Rick episode. Right. Now, as I should say, the Pickle Rick episode is one of the best episodes of Rick and Morty ever done. So the fact that they were pissed about that for some god-awful reason, just irritating. So irritating. And it's ironic, too, that the fact that these quote-unquote fans would go after the 3rd season, because honestly, this 3rd season has been fantastic. It has. On every level, it's just been a quality season. So for them, it's, again, it's not a matter of the show. It's not a matter of the writers. It's their own personal issues that they're projecting out there. That's what it boils down to. It's nothing to do with the quality of the writers or the shows, because the quality of the writing is on point more than it's ever been. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was lame that we had to wait 1.5 years between seasons, or I should say fans had to wait 1.5 years because I only got into Rick and Morty this year. But they've used that time wisely, and they know what they're doing. And the fact, if just the mere presence of seeing a woman's name on the screen infuriates you, that is on you. There's a problem with you.
Yep.
So yeah, it was. Okay. You've all read my comment sections. I know some of you have said this crap to me. Stop it. Enough.
The other area I wanted to bring up, because I know this has become, especially with what we do, it's a bit of an issue. CBS put an embargo on reviews of the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. The gut instinct, I think, tends to be when you read something like that, like, uh-oh. Like, well, that's not good. It seems like they want to just kind of get it out in front of everybody before anybody gets the heads up. Mm-hmm. Is that you guys think, is that too cynical of a view to view it as, or what are your thoughts?
No, I think it's good. I think the whole thing is the Game of Thrones defense, in that it is so much looked forward to that the second that it hits the screen, it's going to get torrented. And the fear was really that because CBS is using this to push their online stream, if people don't have a reason to go and subscribe to it, if they can just get it on torrent, which they will 5 seconds after it airs, but as far as ahead of time, they want to use it as because they don't really have anything else that's a main, a killer app, as it were, to go subscribe to their CBS All Access or online or whatever they're calling it. And so I think that's really the driving reason, is that because they know it would leak and they know it would get out there and that would impact their subscriptions, because it's not like, even in HBO's case, they have the existing month-to-month subscriber base, where here CBS is trying to build one. And if there's anything that deters from that, it's going to pull them off. Yeah. That's opinion as to why these guys did it.
It's the whole screeners is it's an interesting dichotomy. I mean, it makes it doesn't really have any specific type of meaning for the audience. For us, it just makes our jobs a little easier. Yeah. And embargoes make it, I mean, like with movies, embargoes make it so all of our reviews go out at the same time and nobody gets the jump on everybody else or anything like that. But I don't think audiences really need to worry that much. I mean, like, there are plenty of movies that don't get screened for critics that are awesome. And it's just, the company decided not to. I mean, we are under no obligation to receive this stuff. I mean, they don't have to send it to us, and if they don't want to, then they won't. I mean, with Star Trek, everyone's going to watch that first episode regardless, I think. I mean, if they're even remotely interested, they're going to watch it just because of name recognition alone.
Right.
So I don't think they really needed to, and it is an expense to do that. Even if you're just sending somebody a stream, it is still, more work for them. And if they don't need to do it, why would they?
Yeah. I think one of the and I think it's in the realm of screeners, but it was kind of a variation on it. What I found interesting, and again, I'm not implying anything. I'm going to say hypothetically, in the land of imagination, let's say that the pilot of Constantine, I found it interesting that the pilot for Constantine found its way into the land of torrents, and interestingly enough, it seemed like all of the things that people commented on about what they didn't like about the pilot, interestingly enough, found their way to be fixed before it made its way to air. Yeah. My initial instinct would be, hey, free focus group if your pilot suddenly mysteriously leaks online. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on things like that? I don't know if I necessarily blame the network, because I think for Constantine, I think it, for example, it improved the pilot. Mm. Have you ever encountered things like that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as doing a beta test, I mean, they could. I mean, I know a couple of films that have been intentionally leaked by their directors to torrents with expressly to either
Deadpool
footage. Well, the original. Well, that was the original kind of like, let's get this thing out there. I really believe that the leak of the Krypton trailer during the upfronts was a way to try and force Sci-Fi's hand, because Sci-Fi was still waffling on it, and all of a sudden here's this trailer that, oops, it fell off the back of the truck. And that kind of helped push it towards actually being bought and picked up as a pilot. It's... Like I said, it's like Kaitlyn said, it really is. It's a convenience to us to get screeners. It makes our lives easier, especially when you do things in long formish, like Ray, like you do. You can kind of pre-roll and get yourself ready ahead of time, because that way you can have a more meaningful second screen experience rather than having to midstream trying to do screen captures and screen grabs and getting stuff all together, which you could do.
Gives you a little extra time to think too and get your thoughts in order. Otherwise, you're like whenever I review Rick and Morty, I usually end up reviewing it like the next day when most people like have their review up like within the next couple of hours. It's just it forces us to stay up later. It forces us to do less. Like it downgrades our quality when we have to do stuff like that. When I have to go to a Thursday night screening for a movie and write a review as soon as I get home, those reviews usually aren't as good because I have a fast turnaround in my head, I like to think, but even then that turnaround is still like a day. Like I'd like to think that I like it when I get to sit on things a little more, and I know I'm not alone with that.
Oh yeah, I like to let reviews especially for more kind of, we'll say, important or deeper pieces, percolate for a day or two just to kind of settle in, because often my knee-jerk walking out of the theater is not going to be the same thing as what I'm thinking 2 days later.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've always wondered when I'm doing the recaps, because I know with regards to the views, it's a completely different beast. I've always viewed recaps as kind of like you're more preaching to the converted, as opposed to review, which I think you're kind of walking in raw. So with recaps, I'm always torn because there's part of me that likes the idea of if I'm doing, let's say, a Preacher Live blog on a Monday night, I like the idea of refreshing them with a good recap, let's say, earlier that day.
Yeah.
Because I'm always torn on that as to where to hit that timing on that.
Recaps helped me this year because for a couple of different reasons, I don't watch Game of Thrones. The main one being that I do not handle sexual assault on screen at all. I can name on one hand how many times in my life I have been legitimately triggered, and one of them was watching Game of Thrones. So I don't watch Game of Thrones. But I was going over to a friend's house for a while watching Rick and Morty. So we would watch Rick and Morty, and then we'd wait for somebody else to get home or for the show to get up on HBO Go, and then they would watch it. And I would use recaps put up by sites that post them pretty much right away to read through and go, can I watch this episode? Now, it wasn't an issue for this season, but if it had been previous seasons, if I had been able to go through and see like, oh, look, this is Sansa's wedding night. I'm not going to stick around for this episode, you guys. Peace out. See you later. So for someone like me, where I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to be, I don't want to say safe, but okay for me to watch or something that I even want to watch, that's something that I appreciate coming out almost right away.
Okay.
And a review is more of like, I'm looking for your opinion and your some insight and stuff like that. For a recap is just like, here's I don't want to say bullet point, but a summary that has a decent amount of detail in it.
Yeah, I mean, it does, kind of expanding on what she said, it's for me, reviews it's kind of like where the role of critic, theoretically, is, I'm still trying to learn how to be one. She already is one. And that's where you try and help your readers put it into context of where things are at right now, as far as within genres, within film. It's like when I was reviewing it myself, it was all about how it fits today versus when it was written and versus when the last time it came out. And that's kind of where the review comes in, and you're trying to review what this means in the overall, genre. And then, or you could just be the guy, I liked it, 8 out of 10, and this is why. And that's great, but that's, if you want to really flesh it out, that's how you do it.
Because media doesn't exist in a vacuum. Despite, there is no such thing as the purely objective critic. Doesn't exist. We all come into things with baggage.
One last follow-up question on the topic, because I'm just curious, the uncomfortable question of this. Inhuman, I have not seen it. With everything that has been said and talked about it, do you think Inhumans could have in some way benefited from a mild leak?
You like before it came out in IMAX?
Yeah. Because I hear the IMAX release was not a good idea.
No, it was absolutely it had zero business being in a movie theater. If I fortunately was able to use my Film Critics Association card to get myself and a friend in for free, but I actually felt bad for the 2 friends that I was also with who actually paid, because I was like, that was a waste. That was utterly, utterly unnecessary. I don't know if a leak would have necessarily helped, but it was just, I don't know. Inhumans is rough. It comes out next week. I was wrong the last time we talked. I thought it was it was today, but it's next Friday.
Yeah, it's 29.
It's 29.
I think Would a leak have helped it? Yes. However, they can't. If they had leaked an episode, like she said, it doesn't do much. You need to get into episodes 3 and 4 before things kind of even, and before you can start kind of defending, like many sci-fi-ish series in general, where it's like where you have to tell every friend who gets into it late in the game, you go, no, you just got to watch through those, power through the first, and it settles. I think getting to the point where it even begins to settle, they'd have to leak like half the season. And so I think that would have been, so to that end, I don't think it would have been practical. And that first episode, everyone could watch that, and I don't know that it would really captivate people to go and see it. It's not like watching the first episode of Legion.
No, it's not a good pilot at all, which is unfortunate because a good pilot can really, really elevate a show. I mean, we should probably at one point have an entire discussion someday about best pilots and just like
and best finales
because they're
or worst.
Yeah. Oh yes, and worst. And worst.
We'll get there. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, there's a million things we could talk about for that. And actually, speaking of finales and stuff like that, if we want to jump into our next topic, if that's all right with you, gentlemen.
Sure.
So this week saw the release of 2 movies from 2 different series that are great. I don't want to talk about them specifically because I'm assuming both of you have not seen Kingsman and you haven't seen the Lego Ninjago movie.
I've seen Kingsman.
Neither of them quite live up to their predecessor, in my opinion. Yeah. So I thought maybe we could talk about a time you were let down by a sequel. It doesn't necessarily have to be a direct sequel, but just a sequel, another entry in a franchise where you were like, oh, that was a serious downgrade.
Can we start with Prometheus, or should we go right with Independence Day? What was that last Independence Day? The god awful. I blanked out. Resurrection, Return, whatever it was.
No, holy crap! I've totally forgotten what it was.
Was it Resurrection, Revolution?
It's an R thing. Regurgitation. I'll take that. It was just
regurgitation.
As certain movies are so bad that you feel your joy of the original kind of dying a bit as you're watching it. And people will say it's like the whole thing that's saying, oh, you've ruined my childhood. Yes, that's hyperbole and that's silly. Your childhood is fine. However, I love putting on Independence Day and kind of putting it in the background and it's just mindless nonsense. Now
it legitimately holds up.
Yeah, it is. And it's just
really
fun.
Does.
You get the president's speech and it's all great and awesome. Wow. And now you have this new one. And that's all I can think about now. And it's just kind of no. Or we can talk about how long we all waited for episode 1. And then we got episode 1. And, yeah.
And then we got episode 1.
Yeah.
I would actually argue out of disappointing sequels in Star Wars, I would say episode 2 is infinitely worse than episode 1.
Yeah.
But that's me.
No, I would not disagree.
I think I've blanked that one out. I think that might speak volumes, actually. I think I just went completely blank on the second one. Yeah, I think you're right. I think repressing memory is a good sign of a bad movie. I really do.
I think the relevant way for films to kind of for the Star Wars movies is think about it. The only kind of semi-good parts: Darth Maul fight, Yoda fight, and then Anakin Obi-Wan fight, and that's about it. And just forget the rest of it.
We'll have to get into the sequels closer to the sequels and the prequels closer to the Last Jedi release.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of one for me. I really loved the original Sin City.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of a trashy movie. I know it's awesome, but it's awesome in like a 14-year-old boy kind of way, and I get that. I really didn't like A Dame to Kill For.
No.
I liked Joseph Gordon-Levitt's little story about the gambler getting in over his head. I liked that one. That was it. The rest of it was just I take that back. I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's story in that movie, and Eva Green knows how to choose some goddamn scenery. But besides that, that movie was a mess. And the fact that we waited as long as we did for it, and that Rodriguez kept going, oh, it's coming, oh, it's coming, oh, it's coming. It's like, dude, really? That's the best you came up with after all of these years? Really? Ugh. It was just such a letdown. Such a letdown. How about for you, Ray?
Oh, it was a tough call, but there actually is a front runner.
We can go around and do more than one.
Yeah, because I would have to say Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows.
Oh, I forgot that movie existed.
Because let me tell you a little backstory. I was lucky enough to go see Blair Witch Project at the Angelica. It was late at night. could hear the subway rumbling underneath. One of the greatest movie-going experiences I've ever seen. I loved Blair Witch Project so much that people for years couldn't convince me that this movie was bad. That's how bad it was. Like, I refused to believe it was actually a sequel to this movie that I loved. And then with each watching more and more, I realized, oh my God, this is the anti-Blair Witch movie. This is everything I just didn't want it to be, but I held on to it for so long. It was, and considering the guy who made it was the one who did those great Paradise Lost documentaries about the West Memphis Three, it was, from such great work to this, the only saving grace is, at least from what I was told, that the studio came in last minute and made dramatic changes to the film from what Joe Berlinger wanted. But it's just, I'm ashamed almost to have liked that at one point. I really am. Yeah.
Ugh. Got another one, Bill?
Well, we could go with things that simply aren't. They kind of went out of line. Like I loved Open Water. I love scuba diving. It's great. It's a shark movie. It's an indie. It was really good. But then, and also for a shoestring budget, it was really, really well made. But then you have Open Water 2. But that wasn't made as Open Water 2. It was made as a different movie. But then the studio went, let's just call it Open Water 2 and slap it on. It's like, wasn't Trolls 2 even actually made that way? It wasn't actually that movie. They just put the title on it to try and go along with it. Yeah. And so that's another one that comes to mind. It's just if you went into it going down, and the problem is we get some of these movies now that we go into movies kind of scared, going, God, I hope it doesn't fuck up. What's like right now, one of the biggest movies of the year that I'm looking forward to, of course, Blade Runner 2049, to one of my top.
My screening invite.
It's nice. I'm really, really scared because that movie is one of the top 3 movies for me ever, just period. And again, I don't want it to be one of those movies that's so bad it makes me go back and have to retcon my originals, but hopefully the memory will shut down and I'll simply forget the experience. So yeah, that actually reminds me, I should go look and see if I got the screener notice in yet, because definitely it's the big one looking forward to. But for me, like, nice. You mentioned Kingsman, Golden Circle. Yeah. One of my review actually goes up this evening because I need to get to it. I didn't hate it. It's just the first one.
I didn't hate it either.
It was the sin of the first one was it was so good and so fresh, and no one expected the massacre in the church, and so that was just so cool. And now it's kind of like, okay, we've just kind of seen the tricks before. I'll still like this better than any Jason Bourne movie or most of the recent James Bond movies, except for Casino Royale. So I love that, but I enjoyed it. It just wasn't as fresh, and it didn't kind of keep it as going throughout.
Kingsman was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was surprised that the Lego Batman movie was as good as it was, considering that the Lego movie was lightning in a bottle. And you want to talk about a movie that's probably going to let us down? It's going to be the Lego movie 2. Because nothing is really ever going to top that one. Getting into Marvel movies, Iron Man 2. Huge letdown compared to Iron Man 1.
Yeah, 2 and 3, yeah.
I'm a 3 apologist. Yeah. I still really like 3. I actually think 3 is better than 1. I know that's like sacrilege among some nerds, but I really like Iron Man 2 is my least favorite Marvel movie, hands down. And
really?
It just,
wow.
Yeah, I really, really dislike that movie. And it's just, it's a trailer. It just kind of meanders all over the place. It's just, it doesn't work for me at all. And the Marvel movies in general tend to have problems with direct sequels. Thor: The Dark World wasn't as good.
Yeah.
Avengers: Age of Ultron, I know it gets a lot of crap, but I think it actually has the same problems as the first one, only doesn't have the novelty of the team coming together to save it. So I mean, as far as direct sequels go in Marvel movies, I would say the only 2 good ones are like Winter Soldier and maybe Guardians 2, and even then Guardians 2 is kind of divided now amongst fans. So even a studio like Marvel, who consistently put out good product, they can't even help themselves when they sometimes have a sequel that's a letdown. I mean, like I said, Iron Man 2 and Thor: The Dark World are the 2 worst Marvel movies, hands down.
And after a while, they have so many movies in the franchise, it's going to get to where Star Wars is going to get in that it's hard to keep that same enthusiasm for everything because there's so many of them. And you're right, it's like the first ones tend to be awesome. The next one's very much a mixed bag. And unfortunately, some of them suffer from the thing is the first one was just so great that anything coming after it would just be, it was fine. It was fun. Like Guardians 2, it was fine. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But was it that same visceral walking out of it the first time kind of going, holy crap, that was so cool. You got us all to cheer for a big walking tree.
The one thing I got to say that I could never, disappointment-wise, I never, still to this day, can't understand the hype about Captain America Civil War. I just, except for Black Panther and Ant-Man, honestly, you know what, it was weird. At the time, it felt like it became this thing of like Batman versus Superman, or do you like Captain America Civil War? And it's like
it was a Marvel DC thing. It was annoying.
And I always felt like I was betrayed as a DC apologist. I was like, I'm not saying Batman versus Superman was a great film. No one has ever been able to tell me why Civil War was so good. I didn't buy the friendship. I didn't buy the animosity. Compared to the comic book, the friendship between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark was almost non-existent. In fact, I don't even understand why they haven't locked Tony Stark up in the cinematic universe at this point. Because he seems to be the point person for everything. So Civil War just kind of, I was like, okay, I guess it's good. But
Civil War was always going to be a letdown because it preceded Captain America Winter Soldier, which is the best Marvel movie. Fight me.
No. That's like a great espionage movie with superhero stuff thrown in. Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah. Got any other ones you guys want to talk about? Any other entries in franchises that let you down?
What's funny is there's so many these days. Really, the idea of a sequel or outside of like the list probably would be far shorter going which one had really satisfying sequels. That list is rather short. For me, probably the Apes movies, the modern 3 Apes movies, are probably one of the few contemporary, movie after movie after movie. It's just really good. But if we think about most of them, they're either, it's okay, but it's not as good as the first one. I mean, the notion of a Terminator 2, or an Aliens back-to-back kind of thing is almost just doesn't happen on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Toy Story, I gotta say. I would put that on the list.
Yeah, that one's definitely better.
In a rare.
Yeah. You want to talk about a person whose career mimics this type of thing would be Neil Blomkamp. That guy came out swinging with District 9, and then he has movies like Elysium and Chappie, and everyone's comparing them to District 9, and nothing is ever going to top District 9.
Yeah.
Where other directors, if anyone else besides Blomkamp had put out Elysium or put out Chappie, I really think they would have been hailed as classics. But because there's this impossible bar that Blomkamp is probably never going to clear, I kind of feel horrible for him. I'm like, your first movie was so good. Yeah. You're probably never going to make anything that good again.
Yeah.
It's like his entire career has been a letdown, and I feel bad for him because I liked Elysium and I liked Chappie, but they're not as good as District 9, and everyone's going to be comparing that movie, his new movies, to District 9.
Yeah, with him, at least his stuff still has a little bit more merit than the dumpster fire that, I'm sorry, I still hold to be Shyamalan. Great.
I knew you were going to say that too.
Because you had him all the way through Unbreakable, and then varying degrees of turds and diuretic excrement, just vile, foul. Why are studios giving this man money? Even more so than what's his name, Transformers boy, but
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. Granted, he sells a lot of tickets typically, but it keeps going downhill. So hopefully, eventually, they'll stop. But Shyamalan is one of those that he made some brilliant things, and now somebody keeps throwing money at him. And fine. So the last one, it's like some of the films in that it's more of a shock in that it just didn't suck. So Split was, Split by a lot of people was hailed. I know you didn't care for it, but a lot of people hailed it mostly because it didn't suck as badly as The Visit, or as Lady in the Water, or as any of his other crapola. So people are like, "Oh, this is brilliant." I'm like, "That's a really low bar, guys."
Yeah, really. Congratulations, you're better than Lady in the Water. You just stubbed your toe on the limbo bar. Congratulations.
Okay, I do gotta say though, the fact that Split is a bridge between Unbreakable and Glass did change my mind on the movie quite a bit. When I thought Split was just this movie about a man with mental health issues, I had problems with it across the board. When I found out that it was being tied into the superheroics of Unbreakable, I don't know why. Maybe because I'm a sucker for Unbreakable and I love that film, but I'm real curious to see where they're going to go now in Glass with all this, how they're going to connect all the dots here. Yeah. That's where I think it's going to at least get. I'm at least holding out for that, but you're right. But Shyamalan's run, oof. Yeah,
my problem with the connection to Unbreakable is that it felt completely perfunctory. It was like they realized they had a movie. Hey, superhero universes are a thing. Let's just
do that.
Let's do that. That's a thing now. Okay, and that was one of the things I actually thought that broke that movie in half even more than it already was the fact that they were just like, "Ta-da! Superhero movie. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're making a cinematic universe. Didn't see that coming, did you?" And I was like, "Yeah, you didn't see it coming either when you wrote that script. I can guarantee that."
Actually, I take it back. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would at least rather be able to explain James McAvoy's condition based on superheroics than my fear initially, which was, is this how Shyamalan's going to portray mental illness? Like, we're really just going to throw all those stereotypes to the screen again? But I'm so painfully not being objective here. I will own it until Glass comes out. And if Glass ends up tanking, then I will be like, you know what, you're right. You really absolutely had no plan. You backed with this major...
Of course I'm right. Come on, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, another modern one that's just thought of. God, do I still... Oh, yeah. Cloverfield Lane, the sequel for them, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I love that one as a follow-up to the original, mostly on Goodman's performance as scary as all get out, just... his kind of looming menace, and I kind of love the story in that one just because there was all these little plot lines that they never bothered to go into, because there's all these little details about what's going on. How did he injure his arm? Is there an infection thing going on there? The other girls, all of this kind of makes this really kind of compelling story to me, and so that's kind of why I love that film a bit, just because it doesn't even bother to deign to explain it to the audience. You just got to make that shit up.
It's certainly a different way of going about a cinematic universe, which is one of the reasons why one of the only reasons I'm interested in The God Particle, which is the next movie in that series.
Yeah. Although I will say the last reel for 10 Cloverfield Lane it got a little dumb for me. As soon as she gets outside and suddenly she can fall 100 feet in a pickup and it's fine. But still, that first hour, 40 minutes, I loved it.
If I may make a tangential related to that. After I got out of 10 Cloverfield Lane, I got to stand with two other professional film critics as I sat there and could not remember what the name of a lamprey was. And I just got on my phone and I'm standing there. I'm like, hold on, guys. I know this sea creature exists. Fish that looks like a condom with teeth. And that was a professional moment in my career where I had to Google fish that looks like a condom with teeth. And I was like, oh, it's a lamprey. That's what those things look like.
It's the little moments you never forget.
True. It's career high marks. I know. All right, if you guys, we've been going about 40 minutes now, and we still need to close out. Do you guys any other movies you would like to talk about on this? Anything else you can think of that let you down? I was really let down by Kick-Ass 2. Yeah.
And do I need to go the cliche of Batman and Robin and how I still hate Schumacher to this day? And even Phantom of the Opera couldn't make up for it? No.
American version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Most American remakes, if it's within 10 years of an original, those tend to bug me. Death at a Funeral remake, any of those kind of films, I'll fling poo at. When it comes to movies that are disappointments, oh my God, just gonna open up, grab, reach in, grab, and pull out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just imagine if we bring up book adaptations. Oof.
Oh God.
Oof. Yeah.
I'm sure we will eventually.
Yeah.
It'll probably come up the next time there's a big book adaptation that comes out, or next time another big book gets adapted into a TV show. Maybe when Good Omens finally comes out. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
King Killer Chronicles. I'm looking forward to King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. His books will be hitting here before too long, so we will see. Lionsgate's picked it up. They have the television right. This is interesting. One thing tangential we can talk about in another episode. Lionsgate and a few others, but I know they have at least 2 properties now, literary properties, that they have option rights for both television and movie and stage. Not that they're going to execute all of them, but they've got all 3. But the primary focus is they're going to do the books, the movies as the books, and then the world they're going to use as a TV series. So they're going to kind of do the anchor thing into the world, and then they're going to float out a television series based on everything that happens around it, before it, and during it. So it'll be interesting to see where folks are going with that. Are they really going to put a trigger and do it all, or what?
Kind of like what they tried to do with Dark Tower before it was apparent that Dark Tower was a mess.
Yeah.